What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Alright, so before I get into this video, I want to give a big shout out to the brother Brendan Olson for once again showing love with the $10 donation via the Cash App. Much respect to him for showing love to the channel once again. Longtime contributor, a frequent contributor to the channel, and I just want to let you know that I truly appreciate you showing love, man. All right, so I want to talk about Ron Artest, right? Now, look, Ron Artest had a really, really good career. Despite all of the antics, at the end of the day, he was a really good player whose career had a trajectory at one point in time where he could have been a borderline Hall of Famer at the very least. Unfortunately, right when he was having, or looked like he was going to have his best season, you had the debacle that was the Malace at the Palace. Ron Artest became public enemy number one, along with the Indiana Pacers. And in many ways, you could argue that his game stymied offensively, at the very least, after that. And then, it was also a matter of, you could argue that reputation-wise, many of the media members didn't want to put him, you could argue, in certain hierarchy at the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not, like, my memory is a little bit fuzzy with some of these years, but, as time goes on, it happens you get older. But you can make an argument that, look, some of these guys that won Defensive Player of the Year awards, like Tyson Chandler, I think Marcus Camby won it once. Couldn't you argue that maybe Ron Artest could have been a better candidate, but maybe because he was playing on the Kings or something, or because he was just out of favor with the media, that he wasn't getting some votes? But here's his resume. All right, he went to high school, LaSalle Academy in Manhattan, New York. Went to St. John's University from 1997 to 1999. When he was drafted, he was 6'7", 246 pounds. For much of his career, he was 6'7", 260 pounds. He primarily played the small forward position. He played in the NBA from 1999 to 2017. Sometimes I forget he played that long. And he played for the Chicago Bulls. He played for the Pacers. He played for the Sacramento Kings. He played for the Rockets. He played for the Lakers twice. And he played for the Knicks. And in 2014 and 15, he played overseas. As far as his overall career is concerned, the NBA champion in 2009-2010, was All-Star back in 2004, All-NBA third team 2004, Defensive Player of the Year 2004, two times NBA All-Defensive First Team 2004 and 2006, All-NBA All-Defensive Second Team 2003-2009, NBA All-Rookie Second Team in 2000, Third Team All-American, Associated Press, NABC, 1999. Won the Haggerty Award in 1999. First Team All-Big East in 1999. McDonald's All-American in 1997. Second Team Parade All-American in 1997. Career averages of 13.2 points. Matter of fact, let's look at his career numbers if I go forward. For his career, he was... played 991 games, so just 9 of 1,000. 13.2 points, 4.5 rebounds, 2.7 assists, 1.7 steals, 0.5 blocks. On 41.4% shooting from the floor, 33.9% from three-point range, 71.5% from the charity stripe. Now, in my opinion, his best years although he was good in Chicago, his best years were probably from 2000. I'd say from 2002 to maybe 2009. During that stretch, from 2002 to 2009, that 7-year stretch, Ron Artest averaged 18 points a game, 5.5 rebounds, 3.4 assists, 2.1 steals, 0.6 blocks, on 42.6% shooting from the floor, 35.3% from three-point range, and 73.1% from the foul line. Plus, playing exceptional A-list defense. And he was probably next to Ben Wallace, the most feared enforcer in the NBA at that time. Probably the most feared enforcer. And perhaps the most loose as far as reputation is concerned. Like, there's many people that legitimately thought this guy was nuts. 6'7", built like a rock, strong. This is the same guy that broke Michael Jordan's ribs when Jordan came back out of retirement for the second time back in 2001. But this is the thing. Did the Malace at the Palace, November, I think, 19, 2004, if I'm not mistaken, or November 18, 2004, one of those days, did that derail him from being a potential Hall of Famer? He was drafted as a 16th overall pick by Chicago in 1999, and at the time was a good two-way player. But as I said, his career really took off after he was traded to the Pacers in the 2001-2002 season. He started to take the role of a primary scorer, which is something he had not done before. He was known more for his defense, but scoring on a lower level, but then worked his way into becoming a guy that could put up 18 to 20 points per game. A defensive menace, as I said, could handle the basketball. In 2003-2004, the Pacers won 61 games and had the best record in the NBA. They also made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but lost in 6 games to the eventual champion, Detroit Pistons. Now, if you remember that same year, the Pistons beat the Lakers in 5 games, and it would have been a sweep had it not been for the Kobe Bryant buzzer beater going into overtime in Game 2, I believe, of that finals. So what I'm saying is that Ron Artest's Pacers gave the Pistons a much tougher go at it than the Lakers team in 2004, which supposedly was a super squad with Shaq, Kobe, Karl Malone, and Gary Payton. During the 2003 offseason, 2004 offseason, the Pacers added Steven Jackson, who won a championship in 2003 with the Spurs, to their roster, improving a team that had already won some 61 games the year before. And people thought that that team would possibly win a championship. And it looked like that was going to be the case. Because remember, this was a totally different NBA back in 2004, 2005. This was more of a defensive-minded NBA, not an offensive-minded league. The teams that were winning championships and going deep were teams like the Spurs and the Pistons, you know what I'm saying, the Nets. Now, it was a small sample size, but this is what Metta World Peace was doing the year of the suspension, all right? During the suspension year, it was just 7 games. But that year, he's averaging 24.6 points per game. Let me look at these numbers. 24.6 points per game, which would have been a career high. 6.4 rebounds per game. 3.1 assists. 1.7 steals. On 49.6% shooting for the floor, which would have been a career high. 41% from 3. And 92% from the foul line. Now, I doubt those numbers would have held, especially the shooting percentages. But you're still looking at a guy that probably would have averaged 21, 22 points a game. Probably would have had a career high shooting the ball in many ways, and peaking on his defensive side of the ball and offensive side of the ball at the right time. It shows his game had expanded so much, especially from an offensive standpoint. He was taking 7.3 free throws attempts per game, which is often the mark of an accomplished or an offensive player that's beginning to assert himself. Playing top-tier defense, taking 2.4 three-pointers per night. He would have almost certainly made another all-defensive first team that year if he had been played. Probably another all-NBA and all-star selection as well. So, as a consequence, you could make the deduction that his 86-game suspension, which was unparalleled in NBA history, to be away from the game that long, made him rusty, and it threw him backwards. It threw him backwards. A guy that was already not naturally an offensive player, he regressed, and you could kind of see that. The next year, he averaged 17.6, but that's 7 points fewer than what he was averaging before the brawl. His effective field goal percentage dropped almost 8 points, 8 percentage points. His shooting percentage dropped more than 9 percentage points. His three-point percentage dropped over 10 percentage points. So he never was the same offensively. And you can make an argument that his confidence offensively, at the very least, was never the same. As I said earlier in this video, he knew that he was going to be blackballed by media, voters, and the NBA front office as much as possible from there on out. If the team had stayed together, I believe that Pacers team probably would have won a championship. At the very least, got into a finals, but I think they would have beaten the Spurs. I think they would have beaten the Spurs because of the amount of weapons they had that year in the finals. I think Reggie would have possibly would have went out as a champion. So then, we look at everything that Ron Artest encompassed. Now you got to make the assumption that everything stayed the same in some capacity. But you got to look at it like this. Well, then again, if things are harmonious in Indiana Pacer land, then Artest wouldn't get traded. So you got to kind of make the assumption that somehow, some way, he still ends up with the Lakers in 2009, 2010, so he wins another championship. Now, 2005, let's say they go to the finals. With Artest playing the way he's playing, is it possible that he could have won a Finals MVP? Maybe. If Draymond Green was in a position to do it, why not run Artest? Anyway, in real life, the next season he was traded to the Kings, who went 14-5 immediately after acquiring Ron Artest. He spent 3 seasons with them, even averaging 20-plus points per game for a season, but eventually was traded to the Rockets once the Kings committed to a rebuild. After McGrady got injured shortly into the 2008-2009 season, and this is the injury in which Tracy McGrady was never the same player afterwards, Artest filled much of the scoring void, while still being one of the best wing defenders in the league. He and Yao Ming led the Rockets to a 53-29 record that year. What many people seem to forget about that year is, in the second round, they faced Kobe's Lakers. Now, this was after the year in which they lost to the Celtics, but they came back with a vengeance and won 65 games during the regular season. McGrady was still hurt, and Yao Ming went down in Game 3 with the foot injury that would eventually end his career. Yet Artest was still able to push that series along with Aaron Brooks. I don't want to sugarcoat. I don't want to forget what Aaron Brooks did in that series. He played phenomenal in that series. But he and Ron Artest pushed that series to 7 games, which is the closest anyone came to defeating the Lakers that year in the playoffs. If McGrady and Yao had remained healthy, could he have won a second championship in 2009? Possible. If they were able to push the Lakers to 7 games without Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming, with the presence of Yao Ming and Tracy McGrady and Ron Artest, and then Aaron Brooks could be playing the best of his career, perhaps they beat the Lakers. If they beat the Lakers, then what's to say they couldn't have beaten the Orlando Magic? So now Ron Artest has 2 championships. Of course, as I said before, Ron Artest won a 3rd title in 2010. So you look at his career with these added extensions. Let's look at it this way. Let's look at his career this way. Because I believe he probably would have won at least one additional Defensive Player of the Year award had things gone differently. But let's look at it this way. 3-time NBA champion, 1-time Finals MVP, 3-time All-Star, All-NBA first team 1 year. Let's go All-NBA second team 2 years. 1 All-NBA third team 2004. 2-time Defensive Player of the Year award winner. 4-time NBA All-Defensive first team. 3 or 4-time NBA All-Defensive second team. And everything else kind of the same. And, I guess better stats since he's played more. Is he a Hall of Famer? Well, I'll put it like this. If Draymond Green is one, then it's hard to argue why Ron Artest wouldn't be one in that scenario. But anyway, that's all I got to say on this one, man. Tell me what you guys think.